Check. Yeah, I think we're going to be fine. And
You want to play it back?
play what back?
Oh, I thought you were going to do Hangouts.
We can't do a Hangout. We've got a 1 megabit upload in our charming Airbnb. All right, trade show shenanigans. We're on the ground in Berlin. I mean, from New York last week to Germany this week. I've been in 5 different time zones over 8 days.
Definitely. And I think it shows in our face.
Yeah, definitely, because we've already been working here for 4 days now, 5 days?
5 days.
Yeah, so that's trade show life for you. You gotta hit the ground running, you gotta hit it hard. But thank you for joining us for episode 268, I believe, of the Pocketnow Weekly. I've probably gotten that wrong, but I'm sure Jules will just put that in and fix it for me with
Jules.
with a cute little redub voiceover. We've already spent a day on the show floor. We've taken meetings with a number of companies off the show floor, some really great hands-on experiences with gadgets coming out the latter half of 2017. And we're gonna share our thoughts share our thoughts on some of the things that we've seen, some of the things we've enjoyed. I think I wanna kick it off with the first thing that we actually did here together, which was Samsung.
Yeah.
So their press conference, I mean, even I kind of made a little fun of them that they made such a big deal out of Q-Rater.
You mean the artificial intelligence? What was it?
For a washing machine? Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, okay, appliances are a huge deal for IFA, and that's not something that we really cover.
No, and here's the thing. I mean, IFA is probably the largest trade show by size, and it's also one of the most complete. And by most complete, I mean, not only can the public come into IFA, but people can actually buy their artificial intelligence washing machine at IFA. And so the show is mostly based on everything, and therefore mobile is just part of it.
Right.
Sort of the complexity of CES, but just a lot more complex. Yeah. And so, I found it interesting. I mean, never have I been to a press event. Well, no, I did once at CES where, the Android-powered toaster and the...
there was the Bluetooth connected trash can. I remember that one.
And the Twitter-powered refrigerator from Samsung. All these things were announced at a CES once. We made fun of it because obviously we're used to these companies using the trade show more for mobile and computers, which is the hottest products they sell. And no, this event was about the AI washing machine,
right?
But also the new Samsung Gear lineup.
Absolutely.
And the way the company is pushing their focus into wearables. And this was interesting. I mean, a lot of people, I was expecting an update to the Gear S3. Mm-hmm. To a certain degree, I am not disappointed that there wasn't an upgrade.
I'm really happy there wasn't a direct upgrate like that.
Because, I mean, timepieces should not
be flipped that fast.
Every year.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that, smartwatches particularly...
I have no idea. No, keep talking. I have no idea what I did with my water.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's yours.
This is it.
Yeah. Okay. No, we're good.
So I'm so happy that the Gear S3 did not receive an update. I'm glad that we actually received the Gear S 3.5.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing about the Gear Sport. You saw my hands on. The Gear Sport is definitely a sports smartwatch, but it reminds me a lot of the Apple Watch.
Really?
It does because
of the focus on...
Okay, so the Apple Watch, if you go for the Sport variant, which is no longer called the Sport, the aluminum variant, it is that. It is literally a sport watch that can become fancy so long as you swap a band on it.
Okay, so this was my big concern when we went with the hands-on, and they had some cool NATO straps, which is kind of a nice way to casual wear your watch. It wasn't until we did a mixer with Samsung after the event. And I thought the PR rep was wearing
David, yes,
a Gear S3.
He was wearing a Gear.
But he was wearing the Sport with the nicer strap, and it dressed up a lot better than I thought it would.
It dressed up really well. I mean, it's the same 316L stainless steel, which I said aluminum in the video. But I'm sorry, we were tired. but it was
still are.
It was the same 316L stainless steel, and it's got this like. It's like the silvery, it's like a titanium black. It's so weird, but it's so cool. And it is, again, it's a standard Gear S3. The only thing that it's missing pretty much are the fact that this has that mode where you're able to pay on a regular, credit card reader.
The magnetic.
Thing that Samsung has. I forget
for
the
Samsung
name.
Pay.
I apologize. It's only got NFC.
Right.
But then in absolutely everything else, it's a Gear S3. It does not have LTE capabilities.
Right.
And I think that that's okay. Like, I think that it will at some point, but Samsung was very specific. We wanted to make a smaller watch. And the reason why, the Gear S3 is a complete watch for fitness. And yet I don't use it because it's huge.
Right, and I was gonna say, I mean, like when we're looking at like the watch and like what it takes to build LTE into the casing of this, the Sport wears more like a regular timepiece.
And so I actually liked 42 millimeters. You can make it a fitness watch when you want to. You can't when you don't. I love Samsung Health, like the changes they've made since the Galaxy S8 and all that push that they made at that event. It's actually paid off. Like, I like how complete it is. And then we saw the Gear Fit 2 Sport. Which was, I like the Gear Fit 2 in its design. I like its functionality. I didn't like its accuracy.
Gotcha.
And so I feel that they showed me the design changes to the heart rate sensor, how now it's a little more close to the body. They even made an explanation to me that it makes so much sense. Like, for example, I like to use these stainless steel bands. They're like, the heavier the watch, the less accurate the heart rate sensor is, because the watch is going to dangle around your body a lot more.
That's a good point.
Whereas if this is the reason why the Gear Sport is lighter and smaller, and the reason why they made a couple of changes to the module on the Gear Fit 2 Sport in order to improve accuracy. And we were talking, and I was explaining to them how, like in the case of the Apple Watch, it's not that I want to endorse Apple or that I care about the Apple Watch. It is just the most complete smartwatch when it comes to accuracy.
Okay.
I mean, it takes it a quarter of a mile for the GPS to catch up. And then it's locked on the dot.
They actually do that really well.
Accurate to a smartphone when you're running. It is on the dot.
Given up on GPS on Android Wear.
Yeah, it is on the dot, as accurate as a Garmin would be. And I have to use Garmin because Garmin is like
they're a standard for that kind
they're
of
the standard. I mean, they are the tool that pilots use to navigate.
Right.
That's how good Garmin watches are. So yeah, I was very, very impressed. I can't wait to hear the Icon X headphones.
Yeah, I do want to play
new
with
ones.
those.
Mainly because, with Jabra.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go right to Jabra on there, because we also got to spend a little time at a Jabra booth, and their updates to their truly wireless earbuds were also compelling. So I'm happy to see both Samsung and Jabra.
Yes.
Well, I mean, again, I think a lot of these things, like the Gear Fit 2 Pro, doesn't blow me away. But what I really appreciate is that they took something that largely worked and they found a few of those trigger points, those pressure points.
Yes.
I hated the clasp on the Fit. And they went just to a regular watch buckle on the Fit 2 Pro.
I didn't mind it.
I mean, again, whether or not you mind it, it's like those were those little, like, we got really fancy and we've got this sort of like bubble lock-on clasp that I could really easily like pop it if I put my hand in my pocket and it got caught on the edge of my jeans or something. So seeing them address those kinds of usability or lifestyle issues, I think we're getting to that point where even smartwatches have reached a certain level of refinement, and that now we need to really address some more of those lifestyle issues, the fashion issues, making them blend in more seamlessly with the rest of your day and not having them stand out as like these geeky science experiments that you wear on your body. And I think Samsung is doing a good job of addressing those.
No, and I was even, I forget who I was talking to, and I was explaining that, okay, so if I have to choose from how complete is a smartwatch, there are things about the Gear S3 that I like. I love the watch faces. I love that I'm able to add how much water I've had during the day. Yeah. I love the sleep tracking.
I mean, like the new calorie tracking tools look really compelling.
The fact that you can actually add your intake and then it'll automatically calculate based on how much you've trained during the day.
And because a watch should be about simple, at-a-glance information, I love that they had like a 3-tier, like basically like a radar screen, like red, yellow, green.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm in the yellow. I should probably not eat these cheese puffs.
Right. Right. And like, for example, now you're able to sync Spotify offline.
Yeah.
Like, why would this matter? Well, if you actually want to go run without your phone, you can actually sync Spotify. It still doesn't do Spotify running, which is one thing that I would really like for it to have, because that's what I used to run. But you actually have the option, which is just great. Now, my biggest problem, and I told them, like, okay, there is one use for a smartwatch, which is, you call it funny, but, I go to, I set my washing machine and I'm like, set a timer for 23 minutes.
Right.
Set a timer for this. I do that with the smartwatch constantly.
I do that a lot.
Set a reminder for this or that. I don't use it to call people, but one thing that I use a lot in New York is, give me walking directions to Penn Station. Give me walking directions to this and this.
Right.
I do it constantly with Siri. Siri is good in the fact that it reacts. The problem is, and I even told them, the Apple Watch deployment of apps is terrible. Like, they are the slowest and clunkiest things you could ever use.
Well, and navigating to the app is also kind of,
and so it's like you have to tell it like 3 times, give me walking directions to a spot, by the time it actually launches the app and does what you ask it to do. Android Wear after version 2 has gotten 1,000,000 times better at this.
Yeah.
They have done an amazing job, and I like the fact that you can actually install a third-party version of Google Maps into the watch,
so that it's launching natively. It's so much cleaner.
Native version of Google Maps on the watch, and this is what Samsung is missing. Samsung does not have maps. They don't have maps. And we're not asking them to have maps. It's just, give me Google Maps on the watch, or some functionality of that. And please, I mean, for all the fanfare of Bixby, when is Bixby going to reach the Gear S3? Because it's going to reach the Gear Sport to a certain degree. And then they were like, we're going to update the rest of the watches.
They were a little cagey about it.
They were a little cagey about it. So I was like, okay, just make up your minds. Yeah. What are you going to do? Because S-Voice, it's terrible. They even made a point over how S-Voice has grown in functionality and in voice accuracy. And I'm like, that's not the answer that I'm
really feel like
for.
Samsung's still reinventing the wheel there. And because I loved, like, getting back to Icon X, the new gesture being the long press so that you can call up your voice assistant. And of course it's Samsung, so they're showing off Bixby, but they did make a point of saying, like, oh, and you can use it with Google Voice too. He's like, I know that's the checkbox I'm going to click almost immediately when I try.
The Google Assistant.
It's getting that back over there. Because I feel like Samsung has this amazing core of developers that work just on their applications for their products, but so much of it still feels like it runs in parallel with what's already being developed by the company that makes the operating system for the phone.
I think that Samsung has a point. They have the scale. They have a much larger scale than even Google does. And
that's true.
I wouldn't even set all my eggs in one basket. I mean, we don't know.
No, I mean, like, I've still said, I mean, like, voice assistants are wide open. Someone could come in tomorrow with an AI butler that'll just blow us away, and everyone will want to switch to that and use it. But I don't know that I see Samsung really plowing that trail. I really feel like all of these other services are kind of just reaching parity. So it means, like, Siri can do this really well and she can call you an Uber, but she can't do this. And Cortana could have done this, but then can't do this other thing. And Google Now and Google Assistant, really good at, like, operating things on your phone, but maybe not so good at working with other apps. And so it's like, all of them are kind of at the same level of, I can use it for some things, but not others. And no one's really started tying all of those loose ends together so that we've got more consistent functionality through voice actions and voice services. And that's where I feel like, again, Samsung, they're giving me a couple really great features, macros. Bixby, when Bixby finally gets updated to, like, hey, nighttime mode, and it can go and do all that stuff really easily.
Oh my God.
That's so cool. That's really cool because
that is so cool.
It's so much easier for a general consumer than the other ways that we used to program macros on our phone.
And here's the thing, like, I am the kind of person that actually depends on those things.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's really good. I used to be all about the NFC tags. Yeah.
Yes.
I leave the house and I tap my phone right by the door and
it turns everything. And now IoT is going to the point where you can actually do that. And my son laughs every, he came to, he's in New York with me. He came to the apartment and he's like, and I'm like, good morning. And all the lights are he's like, I can live like this. He's like,
hello, computer.
he really likes that. And you know, automation is one thing. I understand Samsung and the whole concept of pushing Bixby. I don't think there's a need for another voice assistant, but I can't really say that the current ones are great.
Yeah.
So
there needs to be pressure and some competition so that these things get better. It's just like each one has its one novelty.
Yeah.
And I don't see any company really coming as like, oh, well, you know what? Our voice assistant is super deficient at walking directions in a city.
Yeah.
And instead of like really trying to address some of those core usability features, it's like, well, yeah, it can't do that. But look at this other amazing thing. I was like, that's still not helping me really motivate a purchase on something like that. And that's why we still have so much room for these services to improve. And again, like a Hound could come in tomorrow, SoundHound, and like blow us all away. I've been mentioning IBM Watson. You give me an IBM Watson phone and I could be a really happy dude. But this is also why I feel like
I don't know.
Samsung's approach, because they're so diverse and they're so broad and they've got now product segments throughout, and they're working this stuff at multiple different angles from multiple different vantages. We're making fun of it, but QRater is an interesting idea in that what is it that it can really accomplish in streamlining the efficiency of washing my clothes, right? So I've got artificial intelligence built into a washing machine.
Oh my God. Can I just say this, because they were making the presentation, and this is one of those things where I used to be a presenter. Like it was my job in a company that I work for to sell projects. Like I would be sent to a spot, I would assess the problem, and then I would figure out a way to fix it. And I would have to create a presentation where during the first 3 slides, I had to be able to sell to the CEO the reasons why we had to either buy this company or take it apart.
Right.
And so I remember...
You were Richard Gere from Pretty Woman. Like, I want to take your company and carve it into pieces.
So the funny part is when they're in the presentation of the washing machine and they're like, think about how many hours of your life you're going to save by being able to, because the washing machine will now take 50% less time. And I love the fact that it takes 50% less time from a simple, you didn't have to come and tell me that I was going to save so many hours of my life, and they actually did the math. And I'm like, wait a second. So you're telling me that you actively sit in front of your washing machine waiting for it to do your clothes? I'm like, really? You didn't have to say that. Yeah. Just the simple fact that the washing machine is so quick, it makes a difference.
I don't know about you, Jaime, but whenever I'm doing my laundry, I am unable to participate with anything else in the world surrounding me until that chore is completed. Because I like to make sure it's done right, that it's done properly. And so I do need to monitor. No, it's not a way to really maintain. It was almost like, you see those bad infomercials and like, has this ever happened to you? And I don't know, how do I use my hands? And bowls of chips are so hard. And it's a black and white big red X.
I remember when Michael did the review of the Galaxy S4 Active. He's just doing did it exactly the same way. Michael, if you're watching this, dude, you're awesome. That was a great review. Those were the days.
That was classic Pocketnow.
Those were the days.
So I want to pivot here because we did get to spend a little time talking to Jabra. I know those dudes are right up your alley. They had some really cool. So I came in as you were talking to the Jabra rep right at the, and it's like $80.
Oh. So
and you're like, I just saw the look on your face.
It's like, what?
It's like a dog showing a magic trick.
So
it was like, huh?
I always get asked the same question whenever I post running pictures, whenever I was running. I'm not currently doing so, but like, what headphones are you using? And I'm like, they're always Jabras. And okay, so I used to be a Jabra customer ever since before I started using their products for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is a company that actually their origins are in hearing aids.
Yeah.
So their technology for audio and quality from simple phone calls is insane.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. I have been a Jabra customer. The second reason was because these were the only headphones that would survive more than a year without dying over how much I sweat.
Yeah.
Their IP ratings...
I'm pretty gross.
Their IP ratings are great. And not only that, they have this 3-year warranty thing where for the same price of a standard pair of headphones, they will literally warrant your product for 3 years.
And like it's a no questions asked.
That's a no questions asked. We'll swap your product, and that's awesome. But so here's the thing. I was still in Honduras. It was before getting back to New York. And they were like, we finally got a sample for the Elites, the in-ear, the full-blown, no wire. And I'm like, eh. So I tried the LGs. I tried the first Icon X.
The first Icon X, yeah.
The battery wasn't great. These new ones now have full marathon battery.
Yeah, you're in a right window for a long run.
In the case of these new Icon X, and that's great. But like I told Samsung, send me a sample and I'll let you know.
Right.
The audio. Okay. My God, those new Elite Sport from Jabra, dude. Those things sound like a standard pair of over-the-ear headphones.
Yeah.
And they've got this 4 microphone system for phone calls. Where the other day I was running, because I actually tried to run again, and my sister calls me, and dude, it feels like a hollow phone call from your old Motorola's, from your old Nokias.
Right.
It sounds so great, and I'm like, okay, I now understand why these things cost $200.
Yeah, the sister company Resound is all about that hearing aid, some of the most advanced hearing aid technology the world has ever seen. And so whenever you ask them about that, they try to downplay that there's any connection. And I think it's really interesting because there's still a stigma. We don't want to be known as, we're the hip fitness company. We don't want to be known as the hearing aid sister company.
Yeah.
And it's a little unfortunate. We had the recent podcast with a representative from AARP and talking about just sort of issues, as people get older and things like that. And I know we have several members in our audience, and I'm hoping to address this soon, especially once we're out of, iPhone launch territory.
Yeah.
But, accessibility options. And those Jabras are built around very similar ideas to improving listening conditions, protecting ear health.
Yes.
Making sure that you're situationally aware while you have things blocking your ear canal. I mean, these are really sophisticated solutions. And again, it's just interesting that we still can't admit, hearing aid technology is now getting to a point where it will augment normal people without hearing deficiency.
Yes.
It will augment your senses. This is at some point eventually, maybe I do want robot legs instead of regular human legs. But starting with hearing and vision, these are the things that we can address right now. And there were a couple other companies on the show floor that were showing off advanced hearing solutions and things like that.
Yeah, but I've known
Jabra is the only company that I think has made as smart a play in bringing those technologies to general consumers.
I mean, if it's not Jabra or Plantronics, companies that have been in the industry for ages, and so here's the thing, but what they were showing off at this event was not that. It was, so the Elites have been out. This is the new update to the Elites, but they launched this new Elite lineup, which is these headphones that they look kind of funny, their design. They look like the typical LG over the neck design.
Yeah, that bar that kind of runs behind your neck.
So here's the thing, they have the same driver and audio technology of the other Elites. Oh, so listen to this. That same audio, they have the same microphones. They have an insane 18-hour battery life.
The neck band is basically all battery.
And it's a flaccid technology type battery.
So you can clamp it to your neck. It's not like it's flopping around.
Guess how much those things cost?
How much would you expect to pay for such a product? $199, $299?
$80. $80. I was like, wait.
You know what tripped me out? And it's such a small thing. When someone delivers a really well executed, simple design consideration, and all of a sudden, I was angry, I'd never thought of it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other companies have done it, and I just didn't know that someone had made a product like this. Yeah. But the earbuds are magnetic. So they won't be just dangling and flopping around. They don't retract like LG. So you want to snap them closed. When you get a phone call, and the earbuds detect that the magnet has detached, that's all it takes to answer the phone call. Because it's I'm using my LG Tone Studios, and when I pull that earbud, I want it to automatically switch from the speakers to the earbud.
Yeah.
There's no reason for me to have pulled the earbud unless I want to listen on the earbud. That would be, but I have to find this fiddly little switch. And again, this is totally infomercial first world problems. I had to hit a button. No. But that's the kind of design that I love seeing. It's such a small but
It's
brilliant
stupid,
consideration for how consumers are going to use this. You're not going to unsnap your earbuds unless you want to listen to something. You're not going to unsnap your earbuds unless you want to answer the phone call.
It's an action. You're doing an action, and it
tie it to a feature. Tie it to a
and if
mechanic.
you want to hang up the call, just snap them back together.
That's so simple, so brilliant.
It's stupid.
So I walked in on the price, and then one of the other reps, she showed me, like, she gave me a little bit more, and it was like I had to just stop her, like, that's all. That's amazing.
You had me at the unsnapping.
You had me at hello. Someone who didn't have me on the show floor for a product that I think I'm gonna like when I really get to play with it. Can we talk about Motorola for just a little bit?
By all means.
So we have a video, the Moto X4. I'm a big fan, Moto X2 back in the day. I'm really happy to see the X line return. I think this is a product that's on point for what they're trying to deliver. I'm really frustrated with the number of people who are complaining that Moto's pivoting to the mid-range.
No.
The Moto X has always been about refinement.
It's never been a flagship.
It's never been like, let's try and impress you with all of the bullet points on paper.
No.
But we can deliver a really nice experience through optimization and give you a slightly lower price point to handle that. That's what the X should represent.
I'm sad that Moto Maker has died.
Yeah, I am sad about that.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the design of the Moto X4. No,
it's a pretty phone. It is a pretty phone.
It's different. It's pretty. Am I disappointed with the choices of chipset? No, I'm not.
No.
I mean, so here's the thing.
I love the 625, so I'm really curious to see what the 630 can do.
Exactly. And here's the thing. You have to remember, the Moto X, the original Moto X, tried to address something. They were like, we're not here for the spec race.
Right.
We're not here to compete against these guys. We want to show you that a phone can be really good, not be priced crazy. We can actually come up with something really cool like Moto Maker.
Yeah.
And you're actually going to be delighted by the experience. We were delighted by everything except the camera.
Yeah.
And absolutely,
even to the Moto X2, that camera was
and absolutely every single iteration of the Moto X,
I loved everything about the phone but the camera.
We liked everything but the camera, and it was just this cool feel of the Moto X.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't matter. Like, for example, the Moto X2, I received 2 units. I received that bamboo variant.
I never got to play with the bamboo, but I still have my Moto X2 with the blue leather back, the white front face, the red accents, my Captain America phone. I still love that phone. I love the feel of it in my hand. I want that exact same shell with just more modern. Like, I want that shell with a 630 and 4 gigabytes of RAM and 32 or 64 gigabytes of storage. But the reason why I'm kind of picking on Motorola, and this is a mistake that they made last year, and this is something this is like a little more inside baseball for you folks listening, because I think the phone is going to be cool. I think the phone's going to be a nice option for people who want to shop at that tier. Why can't Motorola figure out that when they invite press to an event to look at a gadget, that you maybe don't want super dark nightclub lighting with hard shadows and neon lights everywhere?
How can I explain to you Motorola? Motorola.
So if you watch our video, it's every color tone in every shot is off.
That is
super
not
dark.
The color of the phone.
ISO is cranked in every.
We had to crank everything.
So bad.
Like, congrats on the video, dude. The video came out great, but we had to
I needed his assist because, like, there were a few shots. Like, my Panasonic is struggling to not make this a grainy, blurry mess. I was glad you had your Sony on.
Dude, it's. I was like, oh my. And you know what's the most hilarious part? The lights were actually. The tone of the lights was controllable. Yeah. So by choice, the lights were yellow.
Choice to give us a urine yellow color hue in every.
Urine yellow is actually an accurate depiction.
Gross.
It was gross. It was horrible. I was so upset. I was just. Let's just get this over with because I don't want to do it in the show
last year with the yoga book. I was like, that is such a beautiful piece of machinery. And they would light up the table for like 10 minutes. So you had a bright soft box that it was on and then dark everything else. So you could never expose. Like every shot, like half of the shot was overexposed and the other half of the shot was underexposed. And this year, apparently, they just decided like, well, everything's underexposed. Everything's dark.
And it like reminds me of Samsung and their Galaxy Note 8. It's like, We were at the Lincoln Center for the Galaxy S8 event. We were doing the hands-on. Obviously, we weren't able to attend the pre-brief. And so we were there at the Lincoln Center, and my jaw was at the floor with the lighting. It was delicious. It was great.
So great.
We were able to show off the phone for its beauty. And then we go to the Note 8 event. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Armory was beautiful.
The Armory's a phenomenal building, but there was no consideration for that kind of
There's so many
lighting.
things. Like the lighting was terrible. The floor, they had to throw something on top of the floor. This I don't know, it was like a wooden frame on top of the floor and a carpet for you not to damage the antique floor. And that's great.
Every step.
But everybody was walking
near you.
And how could I tell people, like, would you stop walking?
Excuse me, I'm trying to get some work done. We're all trying to get some work done, but
Exactly.
like every shot in my Note 8 coverage is like wobble, 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 wobble as people are walking around. And then we get to the gear presentation here in this beautiful Berlin loft, this great diagonal lighting.
23, okay.
Amazing wood, rustic, metal. They had like an old motorcycle in one room, and like
old typewriter.
You couldn't, unless you pointed your camera directly out the window at the sun, you could not arrive at a bad shot.
They had a working piano.
Oh, it was so great.
It was delicious. It was
so,
great.
I mean, like, when we talked to them, it was like, oh, we're really glad you liked our venue, and like, we'll let the lighting designer know. Like, the Samsung event, they had the consideration of like, we're gonna approach this as if these people are all shooting films.
Yes.
And it shows. Like, it was so easy to get great shots of all those products. Yeah. And then we get to the Motorola, and I'm looking forward to a Moto X, and like, I can't even see it with my eyes in the venue. No. How am I supposed to put this on camera? So again, like, I'm picking on Motorola here because, like I said, I think the phone's gonna be cool, but I just, like, I want to, like, I'm going to maybe drop by the Lenovo booth and speak with some of the Lenovo people and just like, hey, I had a lot of fun at the event. They had the Star Wars AR game.
It was cool.
The Jedi Force game. My lightsaber was a little buggy, but I was still able to defeat Kylo Ren.
Okay, so what did you think about this one? I mean...
The experience? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a great first step to show consumers what AR can do.
Yeah.
And I really feel like the way that they had it, they had these like triangular sections where you could fight Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
And I almost wish that they hadn't done that because it put Kylo Ren just on a plain black background. So you didn't see how he was walking back and forth in the approach. And once you get this in your living room, I think it's gonna be so much cooler. Because, I mean, it's not like he's going to be jumping around and really interacting with the environment. We don't really have the computational horsepower in a phone to pull that off just yet. But it was such a great organic experience between headset, lightsaber, and then the fighting mechanic worked in the way that I think Nintendo always wanted the Wii to be. You know, like, we haven't really realized that well, and this, I thought, worked surprisingly well.
So I didn't like it.
You didn't like the game, or you didn't like the implementation?
Everything. I didn't like the implementation. And so there are a few things. I don't like VR. I will never use a gear. I obviously did like the Vive. I like how complete the Vive is, but I don't like all the setup that you require and all the logistics.
Right.
And it's just that every time that I had to pull out those like things to be able to detect where I was and calibrate them, it made the experience cumbersome. Like in New York City, finding an apartment with space is a commodity.
Oh yeah.
And you can't set that up in your backyard. And so, because a backyard's also a commodity.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. What I didn't like were a few things. Number one, the field of view of the headset was very limited.
It is.
That's
going to be a problem with AR,
limited. And so here's the thing. I mean, I do understand that they probably made the holographic whatever thing that they did in the screen small just to keep the price tag down. And the price tag is insane at $300, by the way.
I don't know that it is, though. I mean, there's nothing else like this. And again, it's got to be that first consumer experience.
Yes.
I mean, you're paying the penalty of being first.
But the display had to be larger. It has to be able to... If it's not able to cover your whole eyes, you're not doing. If you can't follow the 120 degrees of your field of view.
But this is what I like about their approach to this one, and this is why I'm really trying to say this is the best first step for consumers for AR, is they're not trying to do like you've seen those HoloLens demonstrations, and like, man, things are going on all around you, but we know that the HoloLens has a pretty narrow field. Like you have a window.
I haven't used the HoloLens.
Oh, okay. But I mean, like your complaint, you've got a very narrow field of view, and there's nothing happening AR-wise in the periphery. But for this game, you have Kylo in front of you, and that's it. They're not trying to impress you by throwing graphics that you'll need to interact with to the side. So I think they're doing a reasonable job of addressing the limitations of the current technology.
Yeah, but that's my second complaint. That's my second. Okay, so
I knew you had another.
Okay, so here's the thing. Whenever you're playing whatever game you're playing, you don't want the fighting to be predictable.
Right.
Whereas you literally have to follow a set of instructions to play, where it's like place your sword in this angle, then that angle. It does not feel natural at all. Like, I understand the concept.
Yeah.
I love that it's a first step. I have to agree with you. But that is a game that I will be playing for 5 minutes, and then I will be like, okay, any more gestures left?
So
it's just repeat.
I have to chalk that up to we probably only got to fight Kylo on level 1 easy beginner mode, and I'm hoping that there is some expansion in what you do. So basically, as you're fighting Kylo, and this is going to be terrible for people who are only listening to the podcast and not watching, but there are these yellow lines that represent where your lightsaber is supposed to be to properly block,
to defend yourself,
Kylo. And then there's just like a target on him when you can attack.
And then it's like block,
attack.
fight. Block, fight. And it's like, really? I can't hit him now? And I even tried hitting him, and it's like, no, you have to wait for your chance to hit him. I'm like, no, this is not a game.
That's not how lightsaber dueling works. I should be
Never
able to
mind.
attack him at any time. So I get that, because it is, I mean, the game mechanic, and this is where I agree with you. The game mechanic is basically a fancy cuts, a quick time event.
Yes.
Like you're playing another game and like, oh, push B right now. You know, like that's not really a game.
No.
that's just a race of like, a measure of my ability to reaction time, like B, I push B, I win. and it is totally that. But that's why I'm hoping that, again, first generation, I think the technology is sound. Like this actually played better than I thought it would, especially considering that it's powered off of phone hardware. And I've had some, when we did the Lenovo Fab 2 Pro.
Yeah.
It was a slightly underpowered chipset to have things really interacting in space around you, and you had some like frame rate issues and stuff. So this again is like, that's the next step. This is an actual consumer product that's going to be on store shelves, and I think it's going to help educate people as to why AR is different than VR. And from there, I'm hoping then we'll see a bit more developer interest to really expand what AR can do. So I think it's the right step.
I don't, but we defer.
But again,
I feel it's not even consumer ready. I feel that I was playing with an alpha game.
Well, probably not too far. Sorry for coughing, folks. Probably not too far. I mean, for me, it was definitely early beta territory.
Very early beta territory. The game was. I remember that
I'll try and post the video maybe like on like my personal YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like, because you got this great moment like. My Schwartz was bent when I started playing the game. So I would go to like defend and it would go.
But you did not
wonk,
do the gesture
wonk,
correctly.
wonk,
you had to
wonk.
bring the sword down for the Schwartz to align
properly.
Come on, where's your Spaceballs bag?
I was like, your Schwartz is as big as mine. Okay, so I want to wrap this up talking about what's probably the biggest announcement at IFA for mobile, and that's this beautiful device right here, which I've got in my hands. I'm showing on camera, and and you have one too.
I do.
Well, look, it's like we're pals. And this is, of course, the LG V30.
I apologize, everybody. I know that it's horrible for me to sound and talk about rumors of the LG V30 on the daily and already have the unit for about a week.
So, I mean,
we can't talk about it. We signed an embargo.
I signed my life away on this NDA. Like, I really like LG takes this part of the conversation seriously. And I really felt like the tech blogger community did a good job of honoring that. Like, there wasn't anyone being obnoxious with leaks or anything, and we didn't want to be those people. So the reason why that's important is I get a little tired of leak culture giving up the goods before the company has a way or a chance to present it the way they want to. Because that's the metric by which I'm going to judge. If LG is going to make a claim, I want to know how bold a claim they're making so I know what standard to hold them to.
Yeah.
So already, immediately, like one of the biggest criticisms that's happening online is this, the claim of it having an f1.6 aperture on the main camera. And XDA developers dug into the metadata on photos, and you can actually pull up the EXIF data on a photo once you take it from the phone. And this is pre-release hardware, pre-release software.
And that's what I was about to say.
I don't know what this is going to look like once the finished product is out, and so I don't want to judge it by pre-release hardware standards. But the phone does report an f1.7.
Not only that, I mean, so we've been playing with prototypes.
And we have a few gremlins, which we know probably won't be.
And so I'm hoping that this whole thing that's happening with XDA is not going to end ruining that. Because, okay, so this is one thing that we really like about working with LG in the way they handle their review process, where they will send us an early prototype, and we can't give you an opinion over a prototype. It's not final hardware. If you notice, we took a long time to do our G6 review because I told them, no, they were very specific. We will send you a final unit, and then you can take your time
and do
your review. And I received my final unit, and I took a week with it.
Yeah.
Even if I had already spent pretty much a month.
It was a different experience, even though the prototype was in good shape.
Was in really good shape. Yeah. I would even say that this doesn't feel like a prototype.
It doesn't.
Not from a user interface. I've had a couple of problems with video.
My accelerometer has an issue on this, so that's the one thing. Like when I go to shoot video, unless I purposely twist the phone a couple times, all of my videos have been in portrait.
And so here's the thing: for whatever is that happening, listen, this is not a final unit. Don't judge it for being a final unit. Do I feel that photography on this phone is significantly better to the G6? Actually, no, I don't, and I can't say that it is or not because this is a prototype.
Right. So, I mean, what we can say are some of the early impressions. I like what they've improved over the G6. But I agree with you. I don't feel like this is going to be fundamentally different. But because the phone has a little bit more horsepower, even on this pre-release hardware, their image processing is already not significantly, but noticeably improved for things like low light. I mean, that was one of the things that I had concerns with on the G6 is that they had this sort of over sharpening to the noise in really low light photos. Yeah. So if you like to do nighttime street photography, you get these weird like cross hatch, like line noisy effects that looked really ugly, even at looking at the full photo. Like it wasn't like, oh, I cropped in a whole bunch and I can see all this grain. It was pretty noticeable even from the full exposure. And those kinds of things have been improved. We have a little bit more resolution to work with. I think the image stabilization is better. That I can already say, like, I like the feel of video from this camera better than I like the feel of video.
It's very aggressive. Actually, the stabilization on this camera is very aggressive.
It is.
Very aggressive.
But we don't have the same ugly wobble that we had on the V20.
No.
So that's been reined in.
Again, it continues to be a prototype. I guess what I've liked the most about, I guess I've come to already expect a better camera from LG. So here's the thing. The other day I went to the 9/11 memorial with my son, and so I totally forgot to bring the G6 for some reason. I don't know why. And I always keep my V20 in the bag of the DJI Osmo. It's there. It's the accessory for my DJI Osmo.
That is the main camera for your DJI.
And so I went. We walked. I started vlogging. I'll publish it one day next year probably. But the thing is, I was in front of the memorial. I wanted to take this photo, and it was already becoming dim. Yeah. And I was like, crap, I need a wide angle. Oh shoot, I have the V20. And so I took the photo, and I remember not being satisfied with the photo. Yeah. Why? Because the G6 did an amazing job in making me be like, okay, V20, sorry. Yeah. It's done.
The wide is definitely better on the G6.
The wide is definitely better on the G6, and it's definitely better on the V30. I feel that they handle distortion a lot better.
Much better.
So yeah, the camera has been improved. I use LG products, and I no longer, ever since the G4, the camera on the G4 and every single LG afterwards has been amazing. Yeah. And so I know to trust the camera. But it's just, if we leave the camera alone and just focus on this hardware. Okay, so here's the thing. I remember being in the briefing. I grabbed it the first time, and the feel that I have from the G6 is this substantial block.
Like, it is a block. I mean, it's the flat edges on the sides.
It's the flat edges on the sides. It's just this feel, and this, like, it's like rough glass. Like, it's got this, like, feel to it where it's like it could even make noise pretty much with how rough the glass is. So it is not slippery at all, but it feels lighter than absolutely any phone that I've held, with the exception of the Galaxy S8.
Yeah.
The regular size Galaxy S8. This phone is really light. It's borderlines feeling cheap light.
It's close.
It's very close to feeling too light.
But the combination of like what your hand is reporting to your brain and then what your eyes see when you look at it, it does. I think LG has finally figured out their sort of style or their fashion. Like this makes sense to me. As a pretty device. You know, like I love it when YouTubers are like, oh yeah, it's got a nice feel in the hand. You know, no protrusions or jagged edges. You know, there aren't any razor blades to cut your fingers on. So you can actually hold the phone. So that's really cool. And
like,
yeah,
really?
that's really good. You know, like, so, you know, the G5 was, I think, the last great example of a flagship positioned phone that was rough around the edges.
Very badly done, yeah.
Very poorly implemented for like having the battery chin and stuff. So it's really exciting to see from one year to the next how much more refined this design, this execution is.
Yeah.
Like how much more confidence I have in LG manufacturing when you pick this phone up, and it's competitive against the prettiest phones on the market today.
I don't just think that it's competitive. I think it's one of the prettiest phones on the market today.
That's what I mean is like, you know, we talk about that upper top tier. We're talking about like, you're going to spend a lot of money on a phone. You shouldn't have to worry about, does the seam on the bottom chin for the battery match up? You know, like, can I see light through the battery compartment? You know, you should not ever have to deal with something like that. You should not have to deal with that on something like a $200 phone. Yeah. But if you're spending over $700, you know, we've passed that price point. You should never have a consideration for the manufacturing, machining, and the aesthetics of the phone to ever have a fault like that.
No, and then the thing of the V series is you have to remember the V series has never been a looker.
No.
Like the V10 was not a pretty phone.
No. The V20 was charmingly ugly.
The V20.
I like the look of the V20.
The V20 was like...
still not a pretty phone.
It was not a pretty phone at all. It reminded me of the HTC Titan, the moment that I picked it out of the bag.
Oh, the second you pick up the V20, it's like, oh, well, this is a big old fat diesel truck.
Yeah. That's what it feels like. Like, seriously. It is unapologetic and it's ugly.
Totally. It's bold. And so I like it, but I can understand if you're talking about general consumers walking into a carrier store and they see like beautiful glass curved edges on a Samsung and then V20 diesel truck. I understand why someone would gravitate.
I almost feel like wearing cargo pants just to feel that I blend with the style of the V20, by the way.
I need my work boots.
I need my work boots and my cargo pants, and that's just going to be...
Before I go jump in my Caterpillar.
Okay, so this phone does not look like a diesel truck.
No.
This phone gives the Galaxy S8 a run for its money any day.
Yeah.
Like really much. Like it feels great, it looks great, it performs great. The OLED implementation is
very nice.
Really good. It's a little warmer.
It is a little warmer, but I mean, did you dig through the display settings?
So here's the thing, the Galaxy S8 Active is another phone that's like that. It's an OLED display, but it's warm.
Right. It is, well, and my S8 was really ruddy. Like my S8 Plus has a red screen if you leave it up to its, the neutral mode.
Yeah.
Just the color temperature of the screen itself is significantly off. So this is a little bit warmer, but if you go in through the display settings, I was excited to see, like, this is the first OLED that they've had since the Flex 2.
The Flex 2.
And they already had consideration for, oh, you might want a cinema mode.
Yeah.
Or you might want, like, a graphics game mode or something like that.
You might want to downscale your Quad HD to 1080p.
Right? I mean,
that's now available.
I'm excited to see LG has jumped on board those kinds of considerations, but I also like that they didn't hamstring the phone out of the box. I do have an issue with Samsung not disclose, like, making a better disclosure of setting up your phone. Do you want to save battery and use a 1080p display? Instead, they just do it for you.
Yeah.
So you're paying for this quad HD screen, but you're not really generating the content at the resolution of the display. And here, LG, out of the box, it's quad HD plus whatever, that's 2880 by 1440. And if you want to down tune it, you can.
You can. But guess what's, I don't know what, for you, what's the most important thing for the V20? For me, for the V30, sorry, how's your battery life, man? Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Okay. All right. So this phone jumps into key one territory.
I don't know. It doesn't jump into key one territory.
Okay.
It's just so much better than any V.
Okay. No.
Sorry.
Okay.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
So here's the thing. On my first day with the V30, I did not leave the phone alone, and I reached a day and a half.
Yeah.
I literally fell asleep.
Oh, yeah, it's a legit like full day plus of use.
Okay,
but
so
I mean, I can get through a 3-day weekend on my.
So
Q1,
no, I've never been able to get that far.
I can run my Q1, sir.
So the key one for me is, listen, any phone.
No, just sticking to the V30, just because this is what is really exciting. The V20 was a monster performer for hardware and specs.
But not battery.
If you used those features, you killed that battery.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't as bad as the V10. The V10, I could kill that before lunch.
Oh yeah, Snapdragon 808 was terrible.
Terrible. So I didn't have high expectations because we know LG runs a ton of custom software.
Yeah.
Their skin is really intrusive. A lot of people are going to be turned off by that. But with a 3,300 milliamp hour battery and the Qualcomm 835, and I'm running a dark theme on my OLED display, the battery life is significantly, noticeably improved over the G6. And like it's in a completely different league from the V20.
I will give you an example. Yesterday, I disconnected my Galaxy S8 Plus, which I've been using here, and my V30 prototype. Okay, prototype versus final product.
Final product.
What time did we get to that bar last night? The Irish pub?
Oh man, I am not going to be sharing video from that evening. I apologize.
Do not. Okay, so here's the thing.
I want to say we were probably there around midnight.
So I pulled out my battery pack for the S8 Plus. Both devices are roaming. Both devices are T-Mobile roaming to telecom. The Galaxy S8 Plus.
Oh, and there was no signal in this pub. We were all down on edge, which means the phones are all cooking just to keep up with the basics.
And no, but also in the venue that we were at, the phones were jumping up and down for signal.
Yeah.
So I pulled out my battery when we left the venue to charge my S8 Plus.
Right.
Because this phone was, obviously it's a prototype, it was having trouble, even more trouble retaining signal.
Yeah.
My S8 Plus was at 6% battery at...
I think it was 3 a.m.
No. When we left the venue, I think it was midnight.
Oh, you mean before we went to the bar? Yeah, so we got to the bar close to midnight.
The 3,500 milliamp. So bear in mind, yesterday we started the day at noon because we had worked all night.
Yeah.
So both phones were disconnected from a charger at noon.
That's 12 hours.
So at 12 hours, my S8 Plus was at 6%. My V30, which I had actually used more because the V30 is using Project Fi. So I get a lot more speed on the V30.
I'm doing all my vlogging on the camera.
Then on my T-Mobile, and all my Instagram, everything is happening from the V30. Not the Galaxy S8 Plus. My V30 was at 53%.
Jesus. Yeah, it's a lot better.
6%, 53%. We're talking about the same processor. We're talking about
a smaller battery.
A
smaller screen.
A smaller, 6 inches versus 6.2. Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, the Galaxy is running a slightly higher resolution display too.
No, I'm using the S8 Plus at 1080p. Whereas this thing is at Quad HD. So that's the thing. Okay.
See, that really bothers me, Samsung. If you're gonna turn my screen down, I want better battery life for it.
And I left it there, and my S8 Plus is at 6%, 53%. I have used this phone a lot more than this other one.
I'm very happy with the experience we've had so far on V30. I mean, I can't even get into like the charts and graphs on our headphone testing.
Yes.
But I can tell you, like, it's a phenomenal performer. I can't get into like the really nitty-gritty stuff for our camera review. It's a solid performer, and to watch them having evolved. Again, this is like just reinforcing my hypothesis that if a company is really engaged with their consumers, and they should demonstrate that they can refine and update a product over around a 3-year period.
Like OnePlus.
Like OnePlus, like the Microsoft Surface.
OnePlus 2,
OnePlus 3 suddenly is this amazing phone to talk about. V10.
And now OnePlus 5 is just...
Yeah. I understand why some people have some issues with the OnePlus 5. But you know, V10, very odd mishmash of certain design elements. It's a transitionary device. It's the first time that we'd ever experimented with the V being any phone from LG being such a productivity content creation device. V20 nails a lot of the tech, doesn't really quite have the right shell, I think, to get consumers interested in the device. And now, 3 years. I mean, if we look from the V10 to the V30, that's such incredible progress to see that level of refinement arrive. And so, like, I'm very anxiously awaiting when we can start testing a consumer unit, because I think our viewers, our listeners, I think you're really gonna like what we have to say about the actual technical performance.
Yes.
I haven't found a real deal breaker on this phone.
I have. The selfie camera is terrible.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, okay, that's totally fair. LG still has a lot of work to do on selfie cameras, but...
The selfie camera is terrible.
But, and so I'm excusing this. You're absolutely right. I'm maybe being a little too fair to LG here, because if you're really into selfies, this is not going to be the phone for you.
So it's great because of the wide angle, and I love
the rear cameras are so easy to get an amazing shot even when you're shooting blind.
And the selfie camera is just such a washed out mess.
And the exposure is still terrible.
If
they could give us just like the same manual modes, and you could just tell the camera, hey, stop exposing for the background, focus on me.
Focus on me.
Right, I'm right here.
Yeah.
I'm literally 3 feet from you, and you're exposing for that white building a mile away. Yeah. Could you not? But, you know, like, I've done all my vlogging from this camera, because the rear cameras are phenomenally easy to blind. Like, not looking at the screen, just point this phone in front of my face, talk for a couple minutes, and like, the video looks amazing. The photos look great. We were at that bar, and they had this like mirrored ceiling, and Michael Fisher was like, hey, everyone just come here and look up. And V30 wide angle lens, this amazing reflective shot of us all in the same frame.
I don't remember that scene.
And what's funny is I remember you making eye contact with the camera, but you're like, why is everyone looking up? What's on the ceiling? Click. But those kinds of things are like, it's so, you know, I love like Huawei's implementation of dual camera.
I do too.
But wide angle, so much more useful to me than zoom. In so many of these social situations, I'm out and about, amazing photography of Berlin architecture, and you're like, I didn't need a zoom for that. I needed to see like this church, this old cathedral. So it's older than America by like 1,000 years, you know, and like I can walk right up to it. I mean, be like right on the sidewalk.
Yes. Point
my camera up, and the whole thing's right there, and it's perfect.
You know, I don't even know what. So, for example, and I should ask a designer, like one of these people that are in charge. This is the cool thing about being part of briefings, by the way.
Yeah.
For us, it's not necessarily just the opportunity to have content early. No. It's the fact that the guy that designed the phone is sitting right there.
Like I'm actually like bugging the engineer who implemented that feature.
Exactly. And so one of the things that I've always been curious about is who came up with 27 millimeters for a smartphone camera. Like, who told these guys that we actually want to be like, just to give you an idea, I have a 35 millimeter f1.8 lens. Thank you for recommending it.
It's a great lens.
It's an amazing lens, and it's the reason why the Moto X 4 footage came
out at all. Yeah,
it came out at all. The biggest problem is that 35 millimeter number.
Right.
I have to set the camera here, and I have to hold the phone here.
There.
I have to be using a monitor to be able to hold the phone, and that's why I have to be panning and zooming. The pans and the zooms are not to make the clip look pretty. It's because my hands are shaking, and I want to divert your attention from the shaking with the panning. That's the whole purpose of the pan. And so it's just a nightmare the distance that you have to be. And I mean, how many times have you wanted to take a photo of your friends that are right there and you have to stand back?
Yeah.
And so what I like about this secondary lens is f1.9. What would be the field of view? I've been wondering.
Well, they always, so I need to like actually do the math on it. They say it's a 120-degree field of view, but I don't know what that translates to in a focal length.
In focal length. I have no clue, but it feels like 10 millimeters.
Because it is still, I mean, there is still some subtle warping of the frame. I mean, you can't completely fix barrel distortion on a lens this small. No. It's much better than the V20. But it's
dude, it's not much better. It's miles better than the V20.
Again, from V20 to V30, you would never, if you were to hold the V20 and the V30 up to someone who wasn't into phones, they would never have assumed that, one, that was the same company, and two, that was only 1 year separation in manufacturing. But I want to say that the wide angle is probably close to approaching a 10 millimeter. Yeah. Something like that. You know, you're in fisheye territory, but it's still rectilinear. It's not like bowed out and all crazy. Just phenomenally well constructed.
I mean, my A6300, the kit lens is a 16 millimeter. For the daily, I'm currently using a 20 millimeter. Yeah. But that 16 millimeter can actually distort, and that's the reason why I stopped using it. Because whenever I'm doing the daily,
if you're at the edge of the frame,
oh no, my god! Like half of my cheek was like, I need another lens. But even that 16 millimeter lens on the A6300 can go really. You know, you can get really close into, you know, you don't have to be stepping back so much. Right. And so it's one of those things where you want to capture a really good shot. That's why I love the wide angle option on the selfie camera. Like, if I want a selfie where everybody fits, I just stretch my arm and everybody fits. And if you're in good lighting, the selfie camera will do a very decent job.
Although I still, you know, like, this is one of those things, and I know people want to be able to see the screen and reference instantly, but once you get just a little bit of a feel for how you aim, it doesn't take a lot of practice. No. I was day 2 doing vlogs from the rear camera feeling, I got this. That was a good shot. And not having to like constantly like reshoot and stuff. And so when we were at Showstoppers, and Nicole was trying to get a group selfie, and she couldn't. Well, she's short. Excuse me, she's petite. She was trying to get this group, and I don't know, there were like 9 or 10 people there, and all it took was like V30. I had the rear camera up, and like I'm making eye contact with her. I'm not even looking up at the camera. Like click, 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 and there's everybody. All right, let's go. Let's get on with it. I got to go get some food. It's Showstoppers. Yeah. That kind of stuff. Like I really want to express to people, especially to general consumers, like if you practice just a little bit, and I'm not asking you like, you know, I'm going to be a photographer and study and do all this stuff. There is such a tangible benefit for getting away from the selfie camera anyway.
That's like the old days. Like, right. It's like the old days. What would we do?
Literally, the men who invented the film camera, the first thing they did was take a selfie with it, holding the camera like at arm's length away, like not being able to see any kind of viewfinder or really frame your shot. And like people who are really good at GoPro photography, they know this. Like they know what the field of view is. They know how to hold it. I've seen people like vlogging from GoPros. You don't need a screen. No. And so that's like one of those amazing benefits of how they've done wide angle on this LG is like, you've got such a huge buffer zone to know that you're getting a good background, you're in the shot, and that everything's going to look cool. I can't stress this enough. Like play with your rear camera to do your selfies because it's so much better for the optics, for the exposure, for the processing, for the software. I mean, like the Pixel, I've got my Pixel up here for show notes. Like the rear camera, so much better than even Google's really good image processing from the front camera, but you just can't fight how much better that rear image sensor is.
Yeah, definitely. No, and I'm very happy with the V30 so far. Can't wait to
play with the finished model.
To play with the finished model. I'm going to have a really hard time moving away from this phone. Yeah. Like, the Note 8 is coming. Obviously, the iPhone 8 is coming.
Mm-hmm. I'm really curious what Huawei's going to do with the Mate 10.
Pixel 2. I'm usually a Bluetooth audio guy, and I have been pulling the wire and connecting it on my Sennheisers.
Oh, it's so good.
The difference is just abysmal.
Yeah.
It's abysmal. Like, there's just no room for comparison.
No.
It's like, and I find it funny when you're raising the volume on the headphones, and it's like the volume dial becomes, it stops jumping from 5 to 5, and it starts jumping 1, 2, 3, 4.
Because 2 clicks might be way too much.
Yes. Yes, it is that much. And I also, like, for example, I noticed, like, LG never mentioned this, but, like, they've implemented new haptics on this phone.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't talk about it.
They didn't mention that or not. I mean, so, like, a number of companies, like, oh, yes, the vibration motor on our phones is now so much better. So, like, things like
in the camera dials.
Even the focus.
Yeah.
The focus has this little bit of, it's not a pop, but it's this little bit of a skip that feels a little like
an iPhone, like an iPhone 7 Plus, an iPhone 7. That's how it feels.
Yeah, those little.
It feels like if it has a Taptic engine.
Those little peaks, those little tips, the bounce that you feel when you're typing on the keyboard is really subtle, but it's nicely implemented, and they're getting to a point where it's almost approaching the organic feel of like what a real camera feels like when it focuses, right? You get that little zip from the lens and you feel it. It's something that your hands register and your brain can go, okay, there's hardware functioning.
Yeah.
And when I focus on the V30, I get a little zip and it feels like I've got it locked in right.
And for those of you, that might be considered a gimmick for people. I don't. If you've ever seen a Force Touch trackpad on a MacBook Pro or a MacBook, that's the feel. That feel is so cool because
it helps confirm to your fingers what you're doing.
Swear that's a button.
Yeah.
You could swear that thing is moving, and it's not. And it's just so cool when you press hard and it just pushes even further. Like it provides extra feedback. It's like, oh, these guys are genius. It's stupid little things like that make that delight you over using a product.
But again, it's like, what do you get when you push a button? Your finger goes, something clicked.
Yeah.
That confirms to your brain that an action has been completed. I mean, that's such a small consideration, but when I see LG finally executing stuff like that, well, I think that's something exciting to talk about. Again, that's not a company that 3 years ago I would have had this kind of, that I think would have had this kind of appreciation for that level of design and refinement.
Yeah. No. And absolutely. And design and refinement. Oh my God. Can I segue into another topic?
Let's just segue in, and then I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah.
We've been rambling on. We actually have to get back to the show for our last day.
I left my essential phone in the room charging.
Oh, essential. It was not an essential carry for you?
Okay.
Okay, real quick. Let's get into this because you've got some thoughts to share.
I need to make this parentheses as not necessarily an apology, but we have had our review ready since Friday. Mm-hmm. I have the footage, I have the script, I have everything, but I was reluctant to do the review. I was reluctant to do the review for a couple of things, and I am going to do it, but I've been wanting to give Essential a little more time.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I have never held a phone. Okay, this reminds me of holding an iPhone 4.
Okay, yeah.
The stainless steel bands.
Totally.
That glass feel, that thunk, that you drop that thing and it felt like if you were dropping a thick sheet of glass.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think there's a phone that feels better than the Essential phone.
Mm-hmm. That ceramic is really nice.
I don't think there's a phone that a lot of phones perform well. The Essential phone performs well as well. It's just I had forgotten what it was like to use a phone in one hand.
Yes.
So well.
Yeah.
With such a large display.
Mm-hmm.
The Pixel feels that way to me, but I hate looking at it. It's a horrible looking phone. I'm sorry. This is horrible. I almost feel like going into the room and just hold on. Let's do that. I mean, I'm jacked in here to the iPad.
I'm gonna fill some dead air.
Keep talking.
So I only got to hold Jaime got the Essential before I did, and I'm about to drop my laptop on the floor here. So I only got to hold it for the first time a couple days ago, and it's a very compelling, extremely well-made device. So if we're talking about like luxury goods, I do think there's an opening in the market for someone who wants a product that's unique, that has a luxury and premium feel to it. And the software performance, for the most part, like the actual UI navigation, how it opens and launches apps, like I was really impressed with like how pixel-like it was, because it's a screamer in terms of performance.
This phone,
camera needs some more.
This phone, you can operate each corner of the screen with one hand. And it's a 5.7 inch display. It's a very odd 19:10 aspect ratio.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's just, it feels so delicious. But the camera.
Yeah, the camera's pretty weak.
Okay, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, okay, no. So here's the thing. Danny Widget told me this like really awesome tip. Install the Google Pixel camera. Actually, TK Bay was the one that came up with that. TK, you're awesome, dude. He came up with that. He figured out how to install the Pixel APK on this phone. And the photos are so much better.
They really are.
They are insanely better. And so here's the thing. I can't say that in the review because that would mean that I'm making an unfair review because I'm using software that's not really what the OEM intended. So here's the thing, Essential. I understand that okay, so the reason why I held back doing the review is because for those of you that didn't know, this phone came to be while Essential was just a 12-people company. 12 people
made this device.
Made this phone. It wasn't until the phone was ready that they started hiring more people to be able to make production possible. This phone is made by 100 people. That is the Essential team. Just to give you an idea, we learned yesterday that Huawei's R&D, their software R&D department
is
3,000
Yeah, so I was going to say it's 30 times larger than the complete team of people who made the Essential.
I was like, I think it's 300.
Or was it 300?
I don't know.
I don't know, because Huawei had like this incredible presentation deck about like all of their worldwide developers.
I wrote it down. I think I wrote it down in my event notes. I'm looking for them. Two regional, hold on.
180,000 employees in 15 R&D centers.
180,000 employees in 15 R&D centers. 79,000, which is 5% of their R&D.
Now, obviously, we're talking about a company that makes like a ton of wireline and wireless technologies. And
yes, no.
They're not all on phones, but like one department of one R&D research center is going to be an order of magnitude larger than the entire team at Essential.
No, they were saying that they pushed, I think it was 147 software updates last year alone, and that's the reason why they need so many people working. Like, Huawei is a monster.
Yeah.
A monster that I gained a lot of admiration for yesterday with what we learned. I did not know that Huawei started 30 years ago with $3,500.
Yeah. And it's one of the companies responsible for like the entire tech revolution in Shenzhen. But I feel from my very brief interactions playing with the Essential phone, I feel like I agree with you. I think the review needs a bit more time to marinate because I don't think the phone is finished.
It's not finished. So that's the problem.
This pie's not done baking yet.
I feel that this company deserves a second chance because the phone is gorgeous. It is an amazing labor of love. I don't think I have ever seen so much attention to detail on a product that was designed by so few people. And
executed so well for it.
And I can't trash this. We're a startup. We're a small company. Like Juan and I, we don't have people holding our lights. We don't have...
You noticed our beautiful, amazing, charming Airbnb backdrop there.
I'm sorry, we don't have people holding our lights. We don't have camera people. Like yesterday, I did the daily after our Huawei meeting. And even
the Huawei event had really good lighting. So you go up and he's like, hey, can I just shoot over here? Because we're just carrying tripods. We gotta do it.
And so I set up tripod. I pulled out my iPad. We grabbed our clip mic, set up my monitor, and I recorded my video in 5 minutes. And one of the Huawei, the European CEOs was there. He's like, you just did that whole video, just that's it?
Yeah.
So I understand.
We understand companies that run pretty lean.
We understand what it's like for, you know, the level of effort that we put into what we do. And for, you know, for us to get your positive feedback while you watch a video, while we do our work, it means a lot to us because you have no idea how much work it requires. We don't have camera people. It's us. It's just Juan and me producing 10 videos a week. Yeah. We've got competitors that do 1 video a week with a team of 20. We do 10 videos a week.
We don't want to call anyone out, but you could step it up, guys.
Everybody, and you know, sometimes I have a lot of admiration for these teams because they produce amazing video.
Yeah, they do.
And I wish we had. It's not that we don't have it's not that we don't have the talent. We just don't have the time.
Yeah, the time and the resources.
Like it would be. We have to find like a balance between what we can do, what we can't do. And not necessarily because we don't know how to. It's just we don't have the time if we want to produce as much as we do. And so this is the reason why I apologize. I hope you understand. We've had this phone since day one, but I really want to give this company time. I
want to give them a fair shot because I don't feel that... So for people that are like, oh, yeah, the camera sucks. No. Yeah, I don't feel that there's anything on this phone that can't be addressed by software. Because the hardware's on point.
It's the same sensor of the LG G6.
And the thing is, it just took more effort for me to get a good photo out of it. And that's firmware, that's software. That's not a deal breaker until we see whether or not the company can address those. And the only way for us to know that is by taking time.
Yes.
If they demonstrate, because I know this phone's been getting software updates.
It's received 3 in a week.
Yeah, okay. So we know that they are engaged with trying to fix some of these gremlins. And so now it's just the waiting game to see, like, can they really deliver on improving the product for those few issues where it's having some significant problems. Once we get to that point, we would then be able to say, this phone is worthy of a recommendation.
Yes.
But look at how fast tech is cycling right now. And everyone has this expectation of like opening weekend results for phones now.
Yeah.
We're almost talking about it like movies, like, it's already a week old. It's already a take the L, you know? Like, we need to be able to give a company like this a little bit of breathing room, or we should just pack it up and say, nope, just buy an iPhone, just buy a Samsung. They're the winners. They're already the top 2 companies. Why bother getting anything else? And that's what's, to me, that's what's been not frustrating, but it was, I'm going to say frustrating. It's a little frustrating in watching some of the early response to this because we all know there is no such thing as a finished phone.
No.
Every phone is a relationship with the manufacturer and the carrier to get refinement and get updates over time.
Yes.
And some companies do a really good job of addressing that, and some companies don't. Yeah. If Essential shows that they are a company who is going to be on board continuing that conversation with their customers, that's a win. That's absolutely a win, and that's absolutely worthy of a recommendation. And I know people don't like to experiment with their phones, but if you were one of those people who were looking Pixel territory, good software territory. Maybe you wanted like the Nokia because Nokia has been promising updates or something like that.
Yeah.
This is a phone that I would put on that list.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things where, again, I have nothing against iPhones. It's hilarious how much people criticize in the daily, like, this guy always hates on Apple and I'm using an Apple Watch in the video, which automatically means that I'm using an iPhone to power that Apple Watch. I use an iPad for audio.
Yeah. I'm sorry, for people listening to the podcast, I just held up my iPhone SE.
Yeah.
One of the best travel companion phones the world has ever seen.
And so here's the thing. There's no hate towards Apple. There's no hate whatsoever towards Samsung. On the contrary. Mm-hmm. It's just there is more in the world.
And it's also
there's more in the world. I remember last year, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
I'm going to forget this point. I remember when we did the whole poll between Pocketnow as to what we thought the best phone of the year was.
Yeah,
I was against your. In the end, the phone that ended up winning was the V20.
Yeah.
I had played with the V20. I was against it over a couple of things, and it had a lot to do with bias. Mm-hmm. It had a lot to do with it's not a popular phone.
Right.
It's not the most powerful phone from a chip perspective, if you want to say, or whatever. But if we have to be unbiased, sit down and say, which is the most complete package,
Right.
the most complete phone that you can buy right now, the phone that literally has things that others don't have, you were right.
It's the V20.
It was the V20. It was the most bang for your buck.
And it was obviously absent a Note 7,
yes.
It was the phone that did the best job of living up to what the manufacturer claimed it was supposed to be able to do.
Yes.
And that to me is like, that's a big selling. That's also why I like coming to do these shows.
Yeah.
If a company comes out there and they're modest and they're humble and they say, oh, and this is something we're looking to address and this is something we're like, well, I'm not going to hit them hard on making outlandish claims. If a company comes out there and is like, this is the bestest, most revolutionary thing ever, and then like, oh, it's a good phone, they've set a tier or an expectation that they couldn't meet.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's to me, and it's ultimately, for a lot of our coverage, why I don't want people to miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
You're gonna do fine with just about any phone on the market for covering the basics.
Yeah.
Above $200 US, you can cover the basics. Like phone calls, texting, email, respectable cameras, like you're well served.
Yeah.
So once we start looking at like, what is it that you really want to do? And that's why I get a little frustrated. Like, what's the best camera? Like, there's no way to answer that question.
No.
But if you tell me what it is that you like to shoot, or what it is like, I just want to pull the phone out of my pocket and not even touch to focus and just push a shutter button and get amazing color.
iPhone.
I can say iPhone or Pixel.
iPhone or Pixel.
iPhone or Pixel. Done. That's easy. But if you tell me like, hey, like I'm really into composition, or like I need to shoot some really good video, or I really want a photographic look for my photos, I can say, mate, LG, maybe you need a balance of features, and Samsung really is the right fit for you. Yeah. Like you care about, like low light photography, and you kind of like to play with some manual modes, but that's not really your thing.
Oh my God.
So I mean, it's like, it's that. So
a Galaxy.
So when we that's why, I mean, like, I never want to talk about wins or losses, thumbs up, thumbs down, because it's always a spectrum. And I feel a lot of consumers are probably using phones, which are good, and they get their stuff done, but probably aren't the right fit for them. They could be using a phone that is like absolutely 100% the perfect fit for them, because we have enough variation in the market to still have that. I mean, we've all arrived at the same kind of idea for rectangle slab of glass, camera on the back. But even within such a narrow design spec, there's so many beautiful options for like unique features, unique settings. You tell me you listen to music and you're not considering an LG V or an Axon 7, you are missing out.
You're missing out.
Big time.
Big time. And you make an amazing point. I hadn't thought about that. Yes, I mean, I think that there is no such thing as a one size fits all right now. There is not.
There isn't. I don't think there ever will. And I hope there never really is.
I guess there are two phones that are the best all rounders. Like they offer a little bit of everything, and they do the best overall package, and that would be an iPhone or a Galaxy.
Yeah. And deservedly,
those are the two phones.
Those two companies have worked really hard to try and appeal in the broadest sense.
The Pixel is trying, but it doesn't achieve the design. It doesn't achieve the Pixel feels rushed from a design perspective.
Totally, because it was.
But then the software just completely saves it.
Yeah,
it's the most underrated. I remember pulling the camera for the first time and I wasn't really expecting much. I was like, Juan, which one do you want? I want the XL. I was like, okay, I'll take whichever. I was like,
I didn't want the XL. I took the XL because I made you take the big phone for the last iPhone.
Yeah, and so, but there's no there's no perfect phone.
Yeah.
And so, you might want the iPhone because your friends are on iMessage and you do FaceTime.
And that's a tangible benefit.
That's a tangible benefit.
Google does not have messaging figured out.
Oh my God, no. But then if you don't, if you want phones that specialize on specific niches, definitely LG is a creator's dreamboat.
Yeah.
All I need is a better selfie camera, and this would be the perfect vlogging phone. But again, you could switch to wide angle, turn it around, and you can still achieve that same.
This phone is only 1 or 2 app generations away from being a one-stop shop for mobile production.
Yes. I mean, from the audio standpoint.
The mics are phenomenal.
The mics are phenomenal.
You have features like monitoring really cool features. So like when you're shooting video, it's feeding you the audio as it's giving you a VU meter. So you know you're not clipping. You can dial in your volume and stuff. You want it to, I mean, this is going to have its own editing suite, but when I like launch Power Director and I can work with templates, I can work with layers, text, transitions.
You've got log video.
Log video that you can color grade on the phone. I legitimately could. It would be a lot slower working process than having my nice camera and my laptop and everything to work. But legitimately, I could create content from this, which would be very similar to the content that I can produce from my actual production kit. We're so close. Mobile. I think Apple was just too early with the iPad Pro to call it a Pro.
Agreed.
We are so close to these tools really rivaling the mainline creation tools that we've grown accustomed to.
I have to agree. And here's the thing. If you're a new YouTuber or you want to get into the business of YouTube,
the V30.
Get a V30.
Yeah.
That's all. That's really, don't waste your money on a camera. You still need to buy a phone. I would rather you pony up a little more money. You've already got the microphones here.
Right.
You've got far better microphones than some microphones you can buy.
Mics, yeah.
You've got far better imaging than some cameras that you can buy. I mean, what cameras do we have that do log video?
I mean, you've got to climb up to like mid-tier semi-pro camera equipment.
Yes.
Yeah.
You need a $1,000 camera for log video. That alone. I mean, the quad DAC on this thing, like how much do you need to pay just... You did the comparison with that...
With a $400 standalone FIO X5, which has an amazing DAC, and it's the only amp that I've tested on a mobile device that does actually beat the V20.
Yeah.
But only by a couple dB. And the V20's quality numbers were neck and neck.
Yeah.
So I think there is a reason why someone would want to buy. So like, let's say you're rocking like a Huawei, where we know Huawei's don't have the best audio output. You rock a Huawei and a FIO, you've got a great combo. Or you could get a V and have it all in one device.
And that's it.
And that's it.
And you know, I love that you made that point of you know, not one size fits all. Like, hey, I mean, to the point, like best all-rounders, iPhone and Samsung, definitely best niche products. For full creation is the V30. For photography, I would give it to Huawei.
For stills. I still think stills.
Photography.
Yeah.
Not video.
Not video. The video's good. I mean, especially on the P10 Plus.
P10 Plus, yes.
The video is
test the P10
good.
Plus.
I'm not going to say the video is excellent.
No.
But it also has the techie cool feature of it taking up less space.
For me, the biggest problem with Huawei is audio.
Yeah, the audio is a big glaring hole in their lineup right now.
They need to work on audio really bad.
Well, actually, you know what we should probably do is wrap this up though, because Huawei actually has an event that we have to get to. I didn't realize we had actually been talking for 90 minutes. I was like, hey, let's just do like a 40-minute podcast. Let's keep this lean and mean, and it's never going to happen. But folks, definitely check out all of our continuing coverage, IFA 2017. We have a few more videos that we're going to be putting out as the show wraps up, so be on the lookout for that. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. Follow us around the internets, Pocketnow, Jaime_Rivera on Twitter, Jaime Rivera on Instagram. I am, of course, at Some Gadget Guy. And of course, the rest of the Pocketnow team, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Pocketnow Spanish, es.pocketnow.com. Please support that. We've got some amazing and talented writers who are producing content for you Spanish-speaking individuals. And
para todos nosotros.
And I'm hoping we can continue this because it's helping me relearn Spanish because I am terrible at speaking Spanish. Pocketnow shows like this cannot exist without your support. By sharing and leaving comments and by reviewing podcasts wherever podcasts can be left, because ultimately there would not be a show if it weren't for you folks out there listening and subscribing since 2012. The Pocketnow Weekly will be back next week with all kinds of delicious technology goodness, so make sure you tune back in.